Okay guys, there were one or two tricky questions in there, so if you did them without any problems, excellent stuff, but let me go through them now and talk a little bit more about those misplaced modifiers and how I would redraft those sentences. So let's begin. Okay, for sentence number 1, the problem caused by the misplaced modifier, which is with a French buyer, is that we don't know the relationship between the French buyer and the seller and the buyer. Does the French buyer have a relationship with the seller? Does the French buyer have a relationship with the buyer? Is the French buyer something completely different? However you wanted to redraft this, you've got to make that relationship clear. So I redrafted it in this way. The seller and buyer were Polish entities and acted with a French buyer. Now, of course, that's just one possible understanding and therefore one possible solution. There could be a number of other potentially correct solutions as long as that relationship is made clear. And this is the danger with finishing off a sentence with a prepositional phrase. You'll see that a lot of these questions end with a prepositional phrase, and it's this confusion which is then caused. What's the relationship between that information that I'm just adding on at the end and what came before in the sentence? A perfect example with question number 2. The law was introduced to stop financial frauds in 2015, and it makes it sound as if the financial frauds took place in 2015 and the law was introduced to stop those particular financial frauds in that year, whereas perhaps a more common sense understanding would be this. In 2015, the law was introduced to stop financial frauds, and of course that meant not just 2015, but 2016, 17, 18, 19, and so on. I think that's probably what the author meant. And of course, you're probably thinking, financial frauds, isn't this an unnecessary repetition of language? Yes, it is, but let's forget about that. Let's just concentrate on the misplaced prepositional phrase. For number 3, the thief ran out of the shop with a weapon. So once again, it's that careless placement of the misplaced modifier, which is with a weapon, that makes it sound as if the shop has got a weapon and not the thief. So this is a little bit more kind of silly, a little bit ridiculous, but nevertheless, the English language is flexible enough for this sentence to confuse. And of course, if we wanted to avoid potentially embarrassing ourselves, we want to redraft this in a clearer way. So something like, the thief holding a weapon ran out of the shop. Something along the lines. Or you could think of a different way to say that, as long as it's not a shop which has got a weapon. Number 4, the lawyer found a memo in her inbox that didn't belong to her. Now the question here is, what didn't belong to her? Was it that the memo didn't belong to her, or that the memo was in an inbox and the inbox didn't belong to her? So here, this is the problem caused by this sentence. So however we want to redraft that, we want to make that relationship clear. So for example, in her inbox, the lawyer found a memo that didn't belong to her. And so we've got repetition here. We've got her mentioned twice. Nothing wrong with that. Remember, if sometimes you have to lose 1 or 2 points in terms of elegance to ensure that there is clarity. And remember, we want there to be clarity. We don't want this to be Shakespearean. We don't want this to be difficult to understand. We want the reader to know exactly what we're thinking as we're writing. And so using repetition is just a small, small sin against style. So in her inbox, the lawyer found a memo that didn't belong to her. And then lastly, I gave a presentation to clients prepared by the BD team. Same as number 4, in that it sounds like the clients were prepared by the BD team, the business development team, and not the presentation. So we need to redraft that. The business development team, there we go, managed to get it out. The BD team prepared a presentation for me to give to clients. Now you can see that this is a complete redraft. This isn't just taking some information and putting it somewhere else like I did with one or two of the other sentences, but this is a complete redraft. And I did this on purpose to show you guys that sometimes a small change is all that's needed. However, sometimes it's good just to go back and think about your message. What is it that I'm trying to say? And very often, authors use prepositional phrases: with a French buyer, in 2015, with a weapon, etc., to add on extra information at the end of the sentence, which then makes the whole sentence rather a confused sentence because we don't know what the message is. So let's go back to the beginning and think, what is it that we're trying to say? The BD team prepared a presentation for me to give to clients.